Hey, what's up? This is Pat Flynn from the Smart Passive Income Podcast. You're now listening to Rich and Wim on Two Guys, One Show. Don't eat the next banana that you see.
Hey, what's good, everyone? You're listening to Two Guys, One Show, a fun, formative podcast covering work, money, and life from the 30-something perspective. We drop 2 shows a week, the main show where we do a deep dive on topics to help you get ahead in life, and the side episode, which is like our mixtape of topics. My name is Rich, and I'm here with Wisdom is Misery, a.k.a. Wim, a.k.a. Wiz, and this is episode 91 of the main show. What's going on, good sir?
Good, man. I'm still adjusting to being back home. Feels like these gentlemen still party like it's 1999. So I'm recovering from what appears to be like an extensive welcome back party. It's been 2 weeks now, but other than that, I guess things could be worse.
Yeah, and so if you've been listening along to the main shows, you know we normally start with bars, and this week was my week. And literally at the moment that I went to press record, I realized that I had no bars ready, and I could have freestyled it, but the confidence just wasn't there, man. It just wasn't there at that moment. So we'll pick back up with it next week. We'll try to come with that heat rock, I guess the cold 32 to make up for lost time. My bad, good people. Shit happens sometimes, you know? So pre-show announcements. So if you're not on Soundcloud, you can live tweet this episode by using the hashtag TGOS91 on Twitter. It's a good way to find other listeners and also for us to be able to see what you have to say about the show if you're not already leaving your thoughts on the SoundCloud platform, which you can access by going to soundcloud.com/2guys1show. And also in other exciting news, the first TGOS or TGO live show is on the way. So we're taking our talents to video, but we're only making it available to our email list. So to get access to future live shows, you can sign up at 2guys1show.com/email. And people signing up after hearing this will be eligible for future shows since we've already pushed out the invite to folks who are already part of the email list today. So anything else on your side for pre-show announcements?
I don't believe so. Not anything for pre-show.
Cool, man. Yo, it sounds like you got like the utmost struggle sleep.
Man, I slept, but it was one of those, like, I'm not going to say alcoholic, but there was drinks involved sleeps where it feels like no matter how much sleep you slept, you still didn't slept enough. That's where I'm at right now. I slept like 12 hours, but it somehow still wasn't enough.
Yeah, I caught that awkward couch sleep, and it's not even on like the 3-seat sofa. It was like the love seat, 2-seater, neck up on the side of the couch, legs all awkward. But somehow I managed to wake up and not be cramped up, which was kind of nice.
I feel like you and this couch really have a lot going on, man. Is there a story behind this? Like, you fall asleep on the couch more on the podcast than I have like in my entire life. Is it just really comfortable ass couch, man? You might want to go ahead and drop that plug.
Yo, I mean, so I have one couch that used to be nicknamed Couch Nisha, and that was before I had Boobokins because, you know, that was where I spent all my time. I fell asleep there. I woke up there. I wasn't getting kicked off of it or out of it, and that was life. But now I just have these nights where I fall asleep and I just want to stay where I am. There's something about the process of having to get up and go from the couch to the bedroom that the sleep just isn't the same. So it's almost like in this weird way, I'd rather deal with the pain of waking up with a crooked neck than the struggle of going like 30 feet from the couch to the bedroom or whatever that, or however many feet that is. That's all, man.
Just one little backstory for the benefit of myself and the listeners.
Yeah, it's, for the most part, I try to get up, but sometimes it just doesn't work the way I want it to. So jumping into the main topics for today or the main discussion, I just had a couple of fairly quick things on my side, I think. And one, I wanted to talk about your digital footprint. And when I say you, I mean, of course, everyone that's listening. And so at work, I had the chance, and I won't say the name of the company or the platform that I saw a demo for, but essentially it's a recruiting platform that collects a shitload of information about what you're doing online and who you are as a potential candidate. And so I'm sitting there going through this presentation and I'm like, yo, this is awesome as a recruiter. But then as I saw what other information was captured, I was like, yo, this is awful as an individual. And I was sitting in this presentation hoping that they didn't pull me up as an example and see my whole stream of tweets, which I mean, it's possible after they finished that they did that anyway because I had a lot of input about the platform, but hopefully that's not the case. But this platform basically allows companies to run a search based on skills across the whole internet. And so it's pulling in information from Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, pretty much any type of platform that's public where you may have information posted. And they're able to see all your live stream of social media activity. So I was able to see a stream of a person's tweets just like pulled in automatically. They actually have an algorithm that's running in the background on this platform that can tell if you might be looking for a job based off of how you've been updating your social media profiles, which is kind of fucking creepy. But I think I've talked a little bit about something like that before. And they can so you can email people from this platform and you can actually see if they opened your email or not, which is kind of crazy to me. Because over the past couple of months, I've been getting emails from like random startup companies. And I'm like, how are these people finding my email address? Like, how are they getting a hold of me? Like, this email address isn't posted anywhere. And I realized that some of these folks are using this platform already. So when you're getting emails from companies blindly to your personal email account, you're like, how did someone figure this out? It's possible that they're using a platform like this and they are able to see if you open the email or not. But there actually is a way to basically report no data. So for a lot of these emails, they know whether or not you opened it based on a tracking pixel or a very tiny image that when it's loaded means that the email was opened. So if you have images in your email account set to not automatically load when you open the message, then they're probably not getting that data point. But if you have images automatically loading, people who are messaging you from this platform can see if you opened that email. And so I say all of this to say, there are a lot of us who aren't looking for opportunities right now. There are other folks who are, and you could be costing yourself a job with every tweet and every social media message. And I'm not saying you need to live your life scared, but that is something to think about. So there are these companies who are creating these big platforms that are gathering a ton of information about you, and you don't even know that you're being watched, which is kind of crazy. Any thoughts or questions on that?
Other than the fact this is insane, this is one of those things I think falls in the category of shocking, but unfortunately not surprising. Like, I'm just waiting for the day where, like, there's like a Minority Report where they know the tweet that you're going to send before you send it. So unfortunately, it doesn't fall into shocking, but it is surprising. The question I was going to have is, do they need to know your information, or do they just need to generally know about you? Like, is it a pseudonym-based search, or do they need to know your first and last name and you can narrow from there? Or do you know? Do they speak to that?
Well, they did it by keywords. So they looked for certain skill sets, which then brought up a list of people. And then when you clicked on those people, you could see their whole web presence. It was nuts, man. So I think they typed in like software engineer. And so it brought up a bunch of software engineers. We clicked the first person in that list. We could see that they had been reached out to by someone from the platform company. And then you scroll down and then you could see their stream of recent tweets. You can see when they last updated their LinkedIn profile. It was just a lot of information. And so other recruiters who were in the room were like, oh, this is awesome. This gets us exactly what we need. But being someone that has a presence, online presence outside of work, I'm kind of like, yo, this is a little terrifying. And it's not even that, I'm online doing anything crazy, but just knowing that at any point in time, someone is collecting this level of information and you don't even know that they're there. It just feels a little bit crazy and unsettling. And the other thing I would note, because part of how some of these platforms work, if they get one email address of yours, they then use that as your unique identifier, and anywhere else that you have that email address tied to, that's what's going to pop up. And so I suspect for some of these people, they have an email address on file. And so they're able to search these different platforms by email address, confirm that, and then verify that is the actual person. So what I try to do for my social media profiles is use an email address that I don't use anywhere else. It's not on any of my resumes. It's not on any type of professional documents. So that if someone does happen to get a hold of that email address, or someone does happen to even to get a hold of my professional email address, they're not going to be able to tie these things together. But even if they did, I think the other thing that would be really important with this is that if you are out there looking for new opportunities, that you are telling a consistent story across the platforms that you're on. So if you're saying you're marketing guru on one, and then you're saying that you're some other skill set on another, and then you're saying something else on a third platform, that can confuse recruiters and HR folks. So if you are in the market and you are trying to tell a story, make sure that it's consistent across the platforms that you are on. Well, any other questions about that?
Well, not a question, but continuing in the land of paranoia, I'm reminded of Charlie Murphy, the known knowns and known unknowns. And I wondered, because I remember there was a platform out there that was exploring, and probably already actively is, we've had a discussion around this where we have the illusion of control and what data is or is not being shared.
Oh, yeah.
But they were looking at facial recognition technology. And I was reminded because it was probably 5, if not 10 years before Google finally associated my pseudonym, which is Wisdom is Misery, with my face. Like, I had images out there, and I had posted images under that name, and I had written under that name. But for some reason, it took like a decade for Google to put those two together. And to the best of my knowledge, although I guess I haven't Googled myself recently, it hasn't associated that yet with my government name. But I'm figuring that's like the next iteration. I bring that up because it's like a self-learning technology. Now, I don't know how algorithms work, but it's doing something that that always lets it get smarter. And like I said, I fear that eventually it'll be one step ahead.
Yeah, that's that machine learning shit that you hear about is like a buzzword nowadays. And we are going that route. And I think even with this platform, they didn't say anything about facial recognition, but they're damn close.
And let me be fair, because I don't want to be one. I don't want to disappear. My greatest fear by a bunch of men in black come snatch me out the room because I know too much. And number 2, I don't want to get sued. So I just use Google in that example. But as always, your search engine of choice. I am not a testament to any that is better or worse than the other. That was just the specific one that I was reminiscent of at that particular instant.
I can tell you who's not coming for you. Yahoo.
All right.
Which I actually hear is still incredibly popular in like other countries and other regions. And I guess it's my narrow American mind that I'm like, of course everyone uses Google or maybe Bing, but apparently Yahoo still does pretty well in some areas, and that's why it's still in business. But
well, another thing, not to get on too much of a tangent here, is especially something like an email platform or like a Facebook. We were talking a little bit about this on Twitter. I'm not sure if we're going to cover it on the side episode, but the alleged downfall of Twitter, which we've actually talked about on a previous episode. It didn't fall then. So, it's not like Rome. We'll see how it goes. But I completely lost my train of thought while I was saying that sentence, and I'm going to try to see if it comes back to me. I should have written it down.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't have it for you either. So I'm trying to buy time by just talking this gibberish here about online presence and social media. And
oh, there we go. Thank you. I appreciate
yes.
I appreciate that, brother. The lightning is firing off a little slower than usual, but it is firing. And that is like I have this Yahoo email address that I've had probably registered in college. I had to register it in college because it has my college acronym as part of the address. Then I have like emails like you're kind of talking about where I only use it when I think they're going to spam me or eventually sell my email. It's the one that has all the, are you looking for a hot date tonight? And that's like 500 emails worth of that shit. So
be her certified mega driller.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Open your door this evening. Just swipe right. It's better than swiping right. We swipe left. And I'm like, all right, well, this is dark. Anyway, so I can't, or at least I tell myself I cannot get rid of this email address because in my head, one day, sometime in the future, that'll be the one email address that actually isn't spam where they're like, hey, we have a long lost uncle that died and has $7 billion that he wants to leave behind. Turns out that you're related to Warren Buffett. And so like I just hold on to this email address that gets like 3 emails a year. Like my parents email me there and like long lost contacts find me there because they know that's like my go-to email address. So I'm like forever beholden to this email address. So that I bring that up because Yahoo and sites like that, in some ways, I remember my homeboy emailed me from a Hotmail address the other day, and I was like, I literally thought Hotmail was out of business. Like I didn't even think it was an option. I thought someone had bought it out, and you couldn't even be on Hotmail anymore.
Yeah, my Hotmail address got converted to a live.com address.
I swear to God, he said, yo, email me. And I wasn't paying attention. I just copied it over. And we were literally in the middle of the thread. I'm like, Hotmail? But,
I'm not surprised.
Somebody's probably out there offended with the L-Sync email address right now, but hey, it is what it is. The Lycos.
Wow. Yo, I still get emails from people that have AOL.com addresses.
That's what I'm saying. Like once they get you, there's certain platforms, email being one of them, where you couldn't leave even if you wanted to. Like there's no transport. There's always that fear that what if somebody can't find me? Yeah.
So I don't have that per se. And some of the email accounts that I created years earlier, like I'm not sure where Hotboy3334 is nowadays. Don't ask. I have no idea why I made that an email address. And then it was like RJ Hotboy34. I'm like, what? Why did I do this? Yo, looking back like 10 years later, maybe even 15 years later, I thought that shit was so dope at the time. And you know what? It's probably because of the Juvenile song. Was that Juvenile or Lil Wayne? The Hot Boy. You know what song I'm talking about?
I thought that was the Hot Boys. Weren't they a group that featured Lil Wayne and Juvenile and Young Money?
Yeah.
Me.
I'm
so
gonna
now we're dating ourselves, so it doesn't even really matter.
Yeah, I'm going to transition away from that. So, lesson here: guard your email accounts. The streets is watching, and if you do got accounts from back in the day that you can't let go of, make sure you're not tying them to any platform so that companies can't find you and other associated shit. So, what happened?
So I wanted to see if this was true before I brought it up. So I typed in MySpace. And actually, before I go into this information, let me click around here a little bit to see what's on here. And why don't you continue your story and I'm going to come back. I want to make sure there's not some pictures that I don't want seen on this web address I'm about to give out. Speaking of,
Are you still coming up as light-skinned rapper? Have you checked that lately?
I haven't searched that recently, but it would not surprise me if it would. Okay. All right. I still have a MySpace page. So if y'all want to check it out, it's myspace.com/wisdomismisery. But the problem is, I don't know my MySpace password no more, nor do I know the email associated with the MySpace. But somehow I had the foresight to like delete all the compromising pictures. So I still got the top 8. It's still, now it would have reflected a town that I didn't live in anymore, but now I'm back in that town and I have 138 connections apparently.
Wait, so is this in Colorado?
Nope, Texas.
Oh, there's snow on I'm all up on who's in your top 8? You just got like 2 friends in your top 8? All right, let me get off your MySpace page. Just feels like I'm stalking you live.
Who the hell is this?
You don't even know who these people are?
I'm in my top 138 and, all right then. These motherfuckers still got MySpace pages too.
Anyway, I'm going to jump to the other thing that I had for this week. And so this actually, originally I was going to do this as a response on the side episode to a listener question. And so this came in via ask.fm. So if you do want to send us anonymous questions to cover either on the main show or the side episode, you go to ask.fm/2guys1show. And this one says, a lot of companies using websites like Taleo for processing applications. I feel like they filter me out before my application gets seen by a human. What are your thoughts on those kind of services? I'm asking because I know Google/Alphabet doesn't use them. And so I wanted to answer this here, just given what I said about this whole platform that's collecting all of this information about you. And so one thing, I haven't actually used a platform that runs the algorithm that does the force rank. This person is a 78% match. This person is a 92% match. And you just view all of those profiles. Normally I just go in and just click through the bucket of applications that are there. But anything that makes a recruiter's life easier, we're probably going to use that thing. So if I did have this option with my current applicant tracking system, I would most certainly make use of it. And good people do get lost because they haven't optimized their resumes for these applicant tracking systems. So making sure that the appropriate keywords and skills are automatically in there, and that they're in there in an organic way versus what I talked about on a previous episode where people try to stuff all of the keywords in the last bullet point or in the last sentence of their summary. And it's obvious that someone threw that in there right before applying. So they get partial credit for including the keywords, but then they lose that credit for making it obvious that they just stuffed it in there at the end. So you don't want to do that. And the other thing I would mention is at least for myself right now, I barely use our applicant tracking system just because I've had so much flow come through referrals and my own sourcing efforts on LinkedIn. So I'm sure people are hearing that. They're like, well, fuck, I'm applying for a bunch of jobs. That's not the most encouraging thing to hear, but that's the reality of it. Again, that's another plug for just kind of making sure that you're out there building networks with people, that you're out there looking for ways to get plugged into companies aside from just applying into the black hole of death. But at the same time, if I want to offer something encouraging, I have landed 2 jobs by applying through online applicant tracking systems. So it is possible in terms of these systems where they filter people out. Yes, it does happen. Good folks get lost, but at the end of the day, we probably still end up getting high caliber people through the process. So just make sure that you're optimizing and preparing for these systems, since you never know what company might actually have one. So any questions on that part?
Nah, I don't believe so, man. I'm actually glad you answered that, because I would have had nothing.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you doing that on the listeners' behalf.
All good, man. So we can transition to what you have.
Let me work my way back over here from MySpace.
I'm not gonna lie. I was on your page and I found myself starting to hover over links and click things, and I was like, I got to get out of here. I might end up in a time warp.
It was like a walk down memory lane. And then it's also funny to me how many other people's MySpace pages are still active on there. I might have to let them know about that, because I'm sure they are not aware.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking at my old page right now. It's definitely not Hotboy3334 though.
I would not go through the pictures if I was you. So in the land of good debt versus bad debt, not all debt is created equal. So in full disclosure, although it is coincidental disclosure, TIAA CREF, which is an organization that I use to handle my investments, wrote this article about good debt versus bad debt. Just felt I should disclose that, even though I am not being paid, although they can pay me if they'd like to reach out, for going over this particular article, and I will link it in the show notes. So they go over 4 areas of debt, broken into 2 that they consider good, 2 that they consider bad, and why. So to end on a high note, I'll start with the bad. They say categorize auto loans as bad. Or car loans usually regarded as bad debt, mainly because the value of a new car depreciates once you drive it off the lot. We talked about this a little bit before, that maybe someone even has a 96-month loan, but I know they got 84-month loans out there. And y'all know I'm in the Charger market ever since I went to Miami and pushed around in the little V8. So they have a 75-month loan, which I'm not going to lie, looked very tempting. It was 0% interest for 75 months. Once again, I'm trying not to be a hypocrite, and again, I also feel that I need to be honest. I feel like that's part of my shtick, is also describing to y'all where I fail. So I'm trying not to get that 75-month loan, but when you look at that little really small car payment, you're like, I started the beard stroke, is all I'm saying.
Did you say no interest?
No interest for 75 months.
What? That's like the whole duration of an auto loan. That's the whole no interest? That's incredible.
And that's my thing. And I talked to
I
my
still
pop.
wouldn't do it, but
yeah, I feel like it's a catch-22. I understand why they're saying this, and I actually believe it's true. And they even have an exception here. New cars are far more fuel efficient than older ones. You get more competitive financing and leasing options, like the 75 months, 0% interest. Not that I'm plugging for Charger, but if they want to give me a discount for plugging for them, we can look into that. Such as 0% financing deals with new cars rather than pre-owned vehicles. So I haven't talked to them about pre-owned Chargers. I haven't even talked to them. You ever started spending money before you spent it? So I'm like on the website yesterday just fantasizing about getting this car. Yes. I'm literally walking through the options. I'm like, ooh, I need the dual leather. Oh, heated seats, put that on there. Black on black on black. Ooh, they got a package that's literally black paint on black paint. But it's $500 more. It's like some kind of name. They're like, do you want blacker black? And I'm like, ooh, how much is that? So
ebony.
Yeah, let's just say that I wasn't on the base pay or the RSP or the MSRP when it was all said and done. So,
be careful out there, man. And that didn't sound very good. I hope she's okay.
Going through some things, man. You know how it is. But that's about the auto loans. And the exception that I was going to cover in addition to the newer vehicle is, I think, and this is just my personal opinion, although I've read something on this, you usually get, no matter how irresponsible of a purchase, assuming you stay within the budget of a car that you can afford, about 10 years. And that's the problem. Most people is unheard of to hold on to a vehicle for 10 years. My vehicle is about 10 years old. Pops had a vehicle. I think he had that motherfucker like 25 years. So people do it. And that's how you get a return. So a lot of people are like, oh, once you drive it off the lot, it depreciates 35%. I'm like, if you don't, it's not a house. Like if you don't plan on flipping it, then you can make that up. That's accurate. That's true. But that's one of those elephant in the room statements. Like I know cars depreciate, but it's one of those things where everyone's cars depreciate. Newer vehicles, by the sake of being new, are going to depreciate further. But if you get a pre-owned vehicle and drive it off the lot, it also depreciates. So it's just one of those, in my opinion, catch-22s that you can't get around. If you're going to buy a car, my thing was, and here's my thinking is, at this point in my life, I'm just going to get something I want that I like. And probably more importantly, in addition to the credit and doing a number of things that has made it responsible so I can have this high credit score and ideally qualify for the 0% interest, is staying within budget. That's probably the bigger issue is people go out and buy cars with 60-month loans that they can't afford for more than 3 months. That's a bigger issue to me than the car depreciating. And the next second issue would be, high interest loans, which yes, you should do.
Yeah. This just somehow reminded me. You said something that reminded me of comfort. And it reminded me of last week's episode. And I was actually booking flights to the East Coast. And I was like, do I save money by going with the economy herd it like cattle seat? Or do I do the plus seat that's not quite first class, but not quite economy either? And I did that middle option. And I was kind of like, oh man, was that a good use of money? But then when I thought about how comfortable I would be along the journey, it felt worth it. So I just thought I would throw that in there, that the comfort factor did come and bite me and get me to spend more money than I had intended.
Well, I will say this, although it was accidental. We were on one of those aggregation sites, probably Expedia, but I couldn't tell you which one. And then I generally go to those to figure out the lowest price. And then I go directly to the website of choice because it seems like there's always some loophole where you get additionally screwed, at least for me, when I go through those aggregators. So I went in this case, and I didn't want to plug, but I'm going to plug them. I went to United. Have you been on a United plane lately?
Actually, yes. When I went, yes, I have. I'll give you the short answer.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, man. I didn't fly Delta. I hadn't been on American Airlines in a while, but it was nice. Like, plush seats, still had room. And maybe I was just because I've been like, slumming it in Southwest Airlines for so long. And no offense to Southwest Airlines, I love the little $49 deals, but it's like you got to fight and claw just to get into the A seating if you're lucky. So like it was nice to not have to fight and claw, to have my assigned seat. And I had a little bit of leg room. They had TVs. They put a crappy movie on, but it was a movie. And I was impressed. I have to say that I was impressed with that experience. And that's the exception with my flying experiences lately.
Yeah, it was slightly more pleasant than I expected. I think I had TV screens on the flight that I was on. For the trip that I'm taking home, we're flying Delta, which isn't bad to start, but I'm like, if we're traveling with the little pup and all of this shit, I'm like, I want to be at the utmost comfort level. It's flying around.
Taking a little one this time, huh?
Yeah.
Damn, it's getting serious.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be quite the experience. But I'm like, if we're going to be flying across the country. And so here's how we did save. For the first time in my life, I'm doing a trip where there's like 2 layovers each way. And that part pained my soul. So I guess the trade-off for me is that, if we're going to do these 2 layovers and it's going to take us like 10 hours to get across the country, I at least want to be comfortable and not have to worry about, rushing through the gate, or not have to worry about, being cramped up and us having to switch the dog back and forth from one lap to the other. So it made sense to me. And I guess I'm still trying to justify the purchase publicly, which is why I'm talking about it now.
I hear the struggle in your voice, but if it's of any comfort, it does sound like a convincing argument.
I appreciate it, man. I really needed that validation. Anyway.
And back to the car loans, one other thing I would keep in mind is actually something I'm going to look into. I assume, and I mean, this isn't one of those bragging statements, but it might come off that way. I'm fairly confident I'll fall into that barrier of, what do they say, preferred financing. So I'm pretty sure I can get a 0% interest deal. But even if I didn't, looking at credit unions, which I've actually done before, and now some of these peer-to-peer loans that I've plugged priorly. And I only bring that up because if you don't qualify into the top tier loan services provided by the dealership, I feel like there's so many other options out there rather than rushing through the purchase to really see what's your best financing option. And there's at least compared to what I was dealing with when I buy that car, 2005, there's a plethora of new options out there for financing availability. And I would explore all of those rather than rushing into you need this vehicle immediately. And as I talked about on literally the last podcast this time, so I don't have to keep trying to figure out what podcast it was. Also, whenever possible, if you know you got a new vehicle purchase coming up, starting to put basically a car loan payment towards that vehicle that you plan on purchasing.
Right. Yo, I'm trying not to jump on too many tangents, but you just reminded me of something else that I think would actually be valuable to some listeners.
I appreciate that because that gave me an opportunity to switch up my mic situation here. So please go ahead.
Yeah. So I don't think I talked about this on a previous episode. And if I did, you can tell me, but I was buying tickets on Ticketmaster for WrestleMania 32 I think it's in Dallas next year. So I'll be in town for that. So I guess I think Austin's like an hour away or something. We'll have to work that shit out.
It's 3 hours away, but we'll figure out the logistics later.
Yeah, I was way off. For some reason, I thought like Dallas and Austin were like a skip away from each other. But we'll figure that out in 2016.
That's San Antonio you're thinking of. But continue.
Yeah. Anyway, I went to go buy tickets online at the time that the event opened. And so, of course, it's kind of like when the tickets open for the Super Bowl or for something else, everyone tries to go online at the same time to buy tickets. And fam, it was the most fucking frustrating experience that I've ever had in my life trying to buy tickets online. So, I'm there. So tickets went on sale at like 9 a.m. Central Time. So I was there at like 8:57, already refreshing. I was so ready to buy these tickets, so amped. And I would do best seats available. And then for every time that I tried to search for tickets, the system would lag and then it would make me do that CAPTCHA shit where you got to put in like, do the math or, how many of these pictures are actual addresses? And I wanted to fight my computer because every time for probably, I want to say this happened for like 10 minutes and Boobakins was in the other room and could hear me yelling. I was so pressed because it would be like, no tickets available, no tickets available. But in between those no tickets, it would ask me to do the CAPTCHA thing. And then eventually it would show me some seats that would look pretty shitty. And then eventually I got to a point where I was like, okay, I don't want to miss out altogether. So let me just kind of buy tickets that come up. Those are probably going to be the best seats I'm going to find. And then I ended up buying a pair of tickets. And so the tickets aren't bad, but I found out after the fact that Ticketmaster, like it's actually a scam and scheme that Ticketmaster runs. So now, of course, I don't have like the data and the stats to prove this, but I read on a forum right after I bought the tickets, because that's always when we read about this stuff, that they create the demand and try to release the least desirable seats first. And by creating this demand and making people anxious and making people feel like they're about to miss out, they get people to buy seats that they wouldn't normally buy. And then they end up releasing some of the better seats later on. So I mentioned that because I was sitting there going through this struggle, trying to buy these tickets, like all pressed, when had I just waited a little while, it's possible that I may have ended up with better seats for the same price. So I think it was something you said about not rushing out there. It's something else that I would consider if you do find yourself in that situation. So a random tidbit there.
I must admit, and one, I apologize for your pain. Let me acknowledge that. And number two, on their side, that is strategically ingenious. I mean, I must recognize the geniusness behind that strategic move on their part, while also empathizing with the pain you feel as a consumer.
Yo, it was brutal. I had to enter that CAPTCHA shit probably 20 times. Every single time it would lag, no tickets available in this area. No seats available in this area. No seats available at this price. But they are available. They just don't show them to you because they're trying to push you towards seats that you wouldn't really want. So be careful out there. That's all I got to say to the good people.
Real.
I'm full of tangents today. My bad, folks.
It's all good. This is actually a short topic, so this is probably for the best. So the second one, or it's supposed to be 2 hours, 2 hours later. The credit cards. I don't have a comforting one for this, but this does fall under bad credit. That was slightly redundant, but in terms of the spectrum of credit cards falls under bad. In fact, it falls under worse. And I'm going to have to agree with this. Credit card debt often falls under the bad debt category because you never earn a return on your purchases. please don't write in about your points and all that. Like, you're losing. Don't try to justify it. Like, oh, well, I got a teddy bear last year. Don't write in. Don't write in. I'll just clown you. In fact, making only minimum payments can lead to more debt, i.e. interest over the long term. And I think there's a informal quote out there that says, whenever you want to buy something but pay more money than it's worth, use a credit card. I mean, that's pretty much what credit cards are. You're saying, I can't afford this, or I want to pay more than it costs. And I would like to think that we are all more intelligent than that. So whenever possible, and maybe that's a little takeaway here, delayed gratification will better justify the purchase in the long run. And speaking of the vehicle thing, some tips my father was giving me when I told him that I wanted a Charger, and he could see in my eyes that I wasn't going to back off this idea. I'm usually a fiscally responsible person, and even when I'm not, my father gives me this lecture. He's like, well, you need to take into consideration. And it goes on about him. He pulls in all these data points that he's memorized over the years, but he could see that I was not going to back off this, so he didn't even bother with that. All he said is, my dad's like a car enthusiast, so he knows car models all the way back to like 1920 and shit. So he was like, it's my understanding there's going to be a new model of the Charger coming out. And actually, I've read some forums subsequently to this conversation about that. So if you can be patient enough to wait for the new model to come out, they usually offer a rebate on the older models because they're trying to get rid of them. He said, go at year end and do a 0% interest financing. So at year end, they're trying to get rid of the models they have on the lot. If they have a new model out, they usually try to offer incentives or rebates to get rid of those models so they can bring in the new models. And like you're saying, force people to buy these newer models. Although usually the newer models, they move the plate around and they call it a new model. It's like, oh, the bumper's a little bit bigger. And so they charge you $16,000 more for that. So now, with all that being said, I've taken some pictures at this potential new model, and it basically looks like if you combined a Charger and a Challenger, and it's sexy as fuck. So I hope that I still have the wisdom and restraint not to just run in there and buy this new model, but I'm keeping an eye out for that. So that's something else to keep in mind, folks. If you're in the car market, you might want to start researching, are there model year changes coming up soon? If you can be patient enough, and it'll give you a timeline to work from. Hey, they're going to introduce a new model in 2017. Now you can start putting down those monthly payments for a full year, and you'll have 1 year or more of payments or down payments towards this new vehicle that you probably don't need but want. And I understand that.
That is a great idea. This idea of putting aside the money up front while you're waiting to buy the car so that once it's here, I wish I had done that.
This falls under the umbrella of what I call being irresponsibly responsible, which I've actually done a lot more over the years. It's something I struggle to master. There are things that I'm irresponsible about. There's things that I'm responsible about. And then there's things that I'm irresponsibly responsible about. And this is one of those things. Like, I intellectually, conceptually know that buying a V8 Hemi Charger to drive 15 miles to work 5 days a week is stupid. It doesn't get good gas mileage. It'll be like almost twice as bad gas mileage as the current vehicle I have right now. There is other models within this actual class range, like the Maxima, which I always make fun of, which get better gas mileage and even have a better rating pretty much across the board. But I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want no damn Maxima. My name ain't Tyrone. I'm not buying no damn Maxima.
Yo, stop all this Maxima. Hey, I mean, I don't have a Maxima, but I was damn close to buying one. I'm gonna need you to cut this shit out.
I defy somebody to write in and tell me about a trustworthy Maxima owner.
I have a feeling that we'll never get an answer.
The data speaks for itself. I mean, I don't know what it is. Maxima owners just tend to be trifling people. usually like with hyphenated names, with dashes, French sounding names, although they've never left the country. It's just strange. I don't know. I don't know the data behind it. I'm not saying causation is correlation or correlation is causation, but there's definitely a correlation there.
Whatever, man.
Search your memory banks, brother. Moving over to good debt. There's 2 items that fall into this, one of which I thought was a little bit interesting, but it generally is the stereotype, and that's mortgage. Mortgage debt typically falls under good debt category because it helps you maintain a strong credit history, and your investment is tax deductible. And your house is also an asset that can appreciate over time. And when it does, real estate ownership helps you build wealth.
Boom.
You have any thoughts on this?
I'm still not in the how. Like I don't like I'm so far away from buying a house. I know that there are benefits to it, but I have enough other debt that I'm taking care of. And I'm also not sure where I plan to be settled in the next few years. So I'm kind of like good for people who are in the house market. For me, I'm going to keep schlepping out the rent money every month and not getting any return for it.
Yeah, no pun, but I'm still not sold. And I'm not even a proponent or an opponent of home ownership. I just look at my specific personal needs. And I kind of wonder if I'll ever be a true traditional homeowner. I think beyond maybe property or like a rent, where I rent out the property ownership, I don't know that I'll ever own a home. And it would probably be motivated by like my wife. And I've had conversations around this, but the missus
isn't that usually what it's motivated by?
I'm gonna no comment that.
And
I
mean, not just for you. I mean, men in general. I think we both watch HGTV, and we both know how it goes. I think that's where Happy Wife, Happy Life originated, because she always gets what she wants.
It's usually to the effect of we have a modest budget of $850,000, and then the wife somehow upgrades them to a $1.2 million 6-bedroom home in the hills. It always does seem to go that way, and it's always something innocuous that you wouldn't even think would add to the budget. They're like, oh yeah, she's like, well, can we put a bathroom over here? And they're like, yeah, that's no problem. That'll be $350,000. And I'm like, what if we move this wall here? And they're like, oh, that's no problem. That'll be $6.2 million. I'm like, and then the guy's like, what if we move the whole house to the left? They're like, oh, that'll be about $5. And I'm like, it's always some modest change. No, I don't even know what you're supposed to say there, but no offense to women, but it's always something. The woman's like, hey, can we tile this? And they're like, yeah, for $7 million, that's not a problem. And then they always zoom into the guy who's like, mentally calculating the budget, usually got a tear in his left eye.
Yeah, I saw one of those this morning where the guy, and it got to the end and where it was love it or listed, and you know where they do the long look at each other. So which do you choose? We choose, and they look at each other for 5 seconds, and it looks like he wants to cry. Yeah,
and the wife always answers first.
Yeah.
All that being said, I think I just see myself being more of a like condo, townhouse.
Yeah, I was gonna say
villa type of guy. Like
which condo? I guess condo does count as home ownership.
Yeah.
Even though it feels more apartmentish, since it's usually in like an apartmentish type building. But there's something about that seems, and I don't know what it is, and maybe it's just that subtle difference in itself that makes that seem more attractive. But even with condos, aren't there other fees associated with that? Like, aren't there like the condo association fees that like you're guaranteed to have to pay as part of owning the home in addition to what you're paying for the mortgage on it?
Yeah, there's like maintenance fees and everything like that. Yeah. But it's more to the degree of, I just haven't been sold on the why. Like, I look at how I live. I'm damn near a minimalist. I'm damn near a hippie. And I'm like, I don't need it. Like, I don't need all this shit. Like, once we start getting over about 1,000, stretching maybe 1,500 square feet, I'm like, I'm gonna occupy 24 square feet of that home. Like, I basically need a studio, and I buy the rest of the stuff because they throw it in. Like, I don't need it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm there with you on that. Like, you said that, and I'm like, oh, okay. I see why this is good debt. But for me, where I am in my life right now, this is pretty far down the priority list of things that I'm thinking about. You know, I don't even see, and I wonder even with our generation, do we see home ownership as a success symbol the way previous generations did? And I don't think that's the case. I think that we just like to be more mobile, and we'd like to have more options and not be tied into anything. And maybe that's part of it.
If it wasn't for this king bed that we upgraded to, like, I'd probably be in a tiny home. Like, I'm right there on the cusp, but like looking at tiny homes, man, 900 square feet and just build a whole home. And I'd rather have land. Like, I'd put a 900 square feet home on 1 acre of land just because, which I also think would be funny if like it was a whole block of McMansions and I just roll up to my tiny home in my Dodge Charger. That humors me for some reason. But the other one that I actually agree with more,
and actually is a pretty funny image.
I don't know, for some reason. would be student loans. So I share this for the listeners. I know a number of you out there have student loans, so I offer this in sympathy and empathy to you. Student loans are considered good debt because they often have low interest rates. They may be tax deductible, and they're an investment in your future earnings. Over a lifetime, the typical college grad will earn $1 million more than the average high school graduate, according to the U.S. Labor Department. And one other thing that isn't covered in this article that I will share in the show notes that I read that was of interest is, now you got to be careful here, but I know federal loans have a lot more stipulations, rules, and length of time traditionally than private loans. But I read this article that was saying that the loan interest market is so low right now that it might be worth, for some, because I know some people are going to be very passionate about this. They're going to feel some type of way about their Fannie Mae's. But they were saying that I think the federal loan program is around 6 to 7% interest or something to that effect right now. And the private market is around 1 to 3% interest if you qualify. So with that being said, it's much harder. There's much less protections with private loans, and it's much harder to discharge them, although you can't discharge student loans anyway. But as far as savings go, if you are comfortable with the type of job, work, security you have, and you're just trying to pay your loans off whenever you pay them off, you might want to explore at your leisure and comfort level the private loan market, because there's probably significant savings that can be gained month to month on the loan interest that you're paying versus the principal. Boom. Something to consider.
Indeed, indeed.
Any questions, comments, or concerns there, brother?
Not on this one. I don't see myself going back to school anytime soon, but good information to have. And this actually reminded me, I need to look into how much I have left on my current student loan. Like right now, it's pretty much set it or forget it. Like I know that money gets taken out every month, but I actually don't know how much I have left. I've just assumed that I'll be paying it for the rest of my life.
Do you know the interest rate?
No, I don't. I just know that it's set and forget. And I want to say I don't have that much. I want to say that I probably have less than 2 years left on it, I think. But it's possible that something has changed and I haven't been paying attention. And like, because you didn't respond to this one email, we have now tacked 5 years on to this loan. I should probably look into that.
So let me put it this way. I don't have any student loans, but I have a credit card right now that's 9% interest. And it's been my lowest card. It's the longest I've had open. And even when I get new credit loan offers, they're never lower than this particular card. And I almost think this card has slipped under their radar because they raised all my other interests and I've moved them all to this card. It's almost like they don't even know it's out there. So I'm hoping that using that technology that you covered earlier in the show, they don't realize that there's some kind of error mistake that they forgot to carry the zero and I owe millions in back interest. That being said, there was a loan that I believe I'd qualify for, and it's about half the interest rate. But over the time period that it might take me to pay it down, it was like $1,000, which would be around 36 months, would be $1,000 in savings, which doesn't sound significant, but you multiply that times student loans because this particular credit card is nowhere near what most people have in student loans. And so it sounds small, but even small changes in interest rates, because you are paying for such an extensive, tend to be paying, especially in the case of student loans, where some people are paying 10, 20, 30 years, those percent interest earned adds up a lot over the years. Yeah. So some people would be benefited greatly to just break out the paperwork, because you're right. Most people probably just like, you know what, I pay month to month. I'm going to pay until my grandkids pay it off or whatever the case may be. But there might be some significant savings that you're sitting on that might go back to what we talked about, where it won't be like you're going to save millions, but it might be $50, $60 more a month back in your pocket on some minimal interest change of like 1 or 2%, which you're like, oh yeah, I had this offer that was 2% less, but I didn't think nothing of it because I didn't want to take the time to fill out the paperwork. But that's $50 back in your pocket. And you know how we do with the cup of coffee that you don't buy. You put that in interest-bearing account. Suddenly it's $60 million in 2064. So you might want to just start taking a look at, is there month-to-month savings that can add up over time? Because a lot of people just take it, well, the inconvenience of doing this, I don't want to deal with it. But they're not looking at how much it is going to save me a year over 20 years. Plus the interest that I'm losing by not investing this. Or shit, I don't care. Take that $50 and go ball out with it. I don't know what you do with it. Make it rain. But that's just money that you are frankly wasting.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into this as soon as I was trying to log into it now, but I haven't logged in so long to this portal that I don't remember the password. And because it's like a government-ish type site, I have to have, it's not even just like it has to be a certain number of characters. It's like it has to be one uppercase letter, one symbol, one number, and an assortment of other characters. And so I'm going to have to figure that shit out after the show. I hate how difficult they make it to log in, but I also respect what they're doing to protect the security. That's probably why I haven't looked in so long, because every time I do look, I have to set a new fucking password, and I'm tired of that, trying to remember it.
You reminded me, yeah, you talked about that before, where you always have to reset the password to this account. I hate accounts like that where we won't rest until you make this password so difficult you can't remember it. Or you have to write it down so someone can steal it. So, I don't know, whatever. I appreciate the protections, and I'm going to wrap this up with, I wouldn't even call this a humorous story more than it is a story that people make, but you might be able to relate to. So since this move, like I'm in this weird transition phase where I transferred all my cards, but my cards don't recognize that they've been transferred. So I always get these fraud alerts. Every time I go to the store, I'm like holding my breath, hoping the card goes through. I get these text messages like, are you making this purchase at this? Like, it's fucking embarrassing. Like I'm sitting up there at the register and I got to wait for the text to come across to improve my own money to go through. And like I go to the gas station, so you know how you have to enter your zip code. At least down here you do. I assume that's universal.
Yeah, it is.
So some of my cards pick up the old zip code, but some are picking up the new. And like, so that's why they think I'm fraudulently making purchases, but it's their fault because their systems aren't rolling on it. It's, I guess the takeaway is it's fucked up, and I just had to get that off my chest.
Yeah, and I know that frustration. That happened to me a little bit when I moved out here to the West Coast, but eventually it catches up. It is awkward and annoying, especially if like you're out at like dinner, you're balling out, everyone else is, and so let's say you're out with your friends, everyone else's cards come back, and then they come over to you and they're like, sir, your card was declined, and everyone's looking at you at the table, and it's like, damn man, I thought you was moving on up.
I hold my breath every time. Like every time I run my car, and it's weird what it does and does not hold. Like it'll let me buy gas, for example, but it hates Target. Anytime I try to buy something at Target, it's like decline. But I'm like, okay, so this person has allegedly stole my car. They can buy gas to go anywhere in the country, but long as they don't shop at Target while they're there. I don't understand these fraud controls.
I want to say with Target, that's because they had those security breaches in the past. So these credit card companies are probably on extra high alert about Target purchases, but that shit still sucks regardless.
You just brought it full circle, brother.
Boom. Yo, the one other thing I was going to mention, and I noticed this when I was booking flights, and it's something that I never do, but people should be careful of. So I was booking the flights and it's like, sign up for the new Delta something travel credit card now and get $40 off your flight. And I'm like, that's not enough for me to allow you to run a credit check and give me an additional credit card. Like I'd rather just spend the extra $40. And so I was wondering like how many people, like I'm guessing if companies do this, it must work. But I was wondering how many people are really being like, oh, $30 off this purchase if you sign up for a new credit card now and let us pull your credit. I would just be curious to know the stats on that. How many people are actually signing up because of that minimal or nominal discount they're getting in the moment?
That is an excellent question because they were trying to get me on that swindle the other day.
Oh, always with everything. Like, you're going out for dinner, open up a new credit card and save $5 on your total bill. Like, thanks. That's not even the fucking tip. So anyway, I think we're good for this week. Am I right in that assumption?
We are good.
All right, cool. So we want to thank everyone for listening to the 91st episode of the main show. So the TGOS store is up and running, or the TGO store is up and running. So if you visit twoguys1show.com/store, you can see an assortment of shirts, hoodies, and other accessories. You might even find a few show quotables. And we're going to continue to add new items as good ideas come to mind. And if you go to the store and you're like, all right, the gear is a little bit too much on the pricey side for me right now, you do still also have the ability to donate to the show by going to twoguys1show.com/show support. And you can donate on a one-time basis, any amount you'd like, or you can also sign up to provide recurring donations and ongoing support for the show. So we don't do the podcast for money, but there's no show without it. And we're trying to cover current costs so we can spend on future projects that are going to bring benefits to you as the listener. So anything else in announcements or closeout items before we officially sign off?
I do not believe so, sir. Other than check your MySpace pages.
Yeah, I just found mine at RJ Black Stallion. I'm going to have to do something about this. So until next week, be safe. We out. Peace.